with the last session. So we are recording this so that people can watch it asynchronously, and those who are here synchronously can go back if there's anything that you think, what was that thing? You can go back. You'll be able to find that on our teaching and learning website under New Faculty Institute. It will be located there with all the information. We will have time for questions and answers at the end, and we will cut that portion of the video. So the video will only be the more presentational portion. If you have any questions, you're welcome to ask questions throughout the session in the chat, or if it's appropriate to unmute at any point. You can also, if there's any questions that you would like to ask, but you feel uncomfortable asking yourself, you can direct message me, and I'm happy to ask any questions on your behalf. So if you would like to ask questions anonymously, that's the way to do it. We are here this morning for our second session of instructional support related to accessibility with Brandon Utech, our Mediasite guru, who's going to talk to us about how we can use Mediasite to create accessible content for our students. With that, I will let you take it away, and I look forward to this talk.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate the introduction, and happy that all of you are here to talk about accessibility in Mediasite today. Let's get started with the screen share. Hopefully everybody can see my screen with the slide that says accessibility in Mediasite.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Appreciate it. So my name is Brandon Utech. I am an instructional media administrator in the Division of Information Technology here at Kansas State University. I'm a white male with short brown hair, wearing glasses and a black shirt today. And let's talk about accessibility in Mediasite, which is the university's video platform for all things video at K-State, not just Canvas, but it has a wide variety of uses. Not really going to go too in depth into all of the various features of Mediasite, because we're going to focus specifically on the accessibility features in Mediasite and the tools you can use to help make your Mediasite content more accessible to your students. But I do want to give a shout out for our Mediasite help website. So that's kstate.edu/Mediasite. And that website has a lot of tips, tricks, how-tos. There's some video tutorials on there about the tools that we're going to talk about today. And so for more information on Mediasite, kstate.edu/Mediasite. So Mediasite, just as a brief overview for the uninitiated, it is a video management tool. It gives you the ability to record videos, to upload videos you may already have, and it gives you the opportunity to then organize those videos and then present them either on a website or in Canvas, and it streams all those out. And it has a lot of these built-in tools for accomplishing the upload and the management and the delivery of that video content. So in the context of accessibility in Mediasite, there are a lot of features that are just baked into Mediasite, and we're going to go through some of those, as well as talk about closed captioning, which will be sort of the big topic of discussion, since that will affect every video, as well as a brief talk about audio description, which is another accessibility requirement in some cases. So let's get started. So why are we talking about accessibility? Christina alluded to it in her previous talk. The DOJ has revised its rule for implementing ADA Title II content, which is web content. So basically stuff on the internet. It doesn't really implement like new standards or anything but it just prescribes more specifically the technical standards that must be used. So this WCAG, Web Content Accessibility Group 2.1 AA standards. And it then more concretely defines which content is subject to the rule. So it's not that it's a wildly new requirement that we suddenly have to comply with by April 24th, 2026. It's just stating more succinctly, yes, you do have to comply with making your content more accessible and for this particular content, and then you also have to use these standards to achieve that level of accessibility. So that was a lot of words. And for those who have not been involved in making their content accessible before, there's probably a lot of angst talking about, a new deadline for compliance, and everybody's freaking out. In the immortal words of Michael Scott, who is displayed here on screen from The Office, everyone just stay calm. Again, these are not revolutionary new rules that are going to require we upend our entire process for creating content. These are all things that we should have been doing all along. The rule simply states now you really have to do them. So if you haven't been making your content accessible, now you need to start. So specifically for video and things in the sort of media site world, how do you make video and other types of media accessible? Christina talked about sort of print content or PDF content, headings, that sort of thing. There's another set of sort of standards for making video content accessible, and there's a lot of technical details involved in how an application is coded or how it's displayed on the website, the type of controls that have to exist on the website to make it accessible. The good news is Mediasite takes care of most of these technical requirements, so you don't have to worry about them. It has an accessible player. It supports screen readers. It has like the shortcut keys. It supports ARIA messages. And then it also has support for captions, audio description, and other metadata. These are all things that will help make content more accessible if they're employed. Christina, in her presentation, again, I encourage you to go watch the recording of that if you weren't able to attend live, but she mentioned voluntary product accessibility templates. And so Mediasite has one of those as well. And you can see it here. I'll just kind of scroll through this. You don't really need to read the whole thing verbatim here, but they have the success criteria that are present in the WCAG requirements, and how Mediasite conforms, or if it supports it or not. And so again, they've done all this work up front to ensure that all these technical requirements are met and that they support the ability to make content accessible so that you don't have to worry about it on your end. So again, lots of text with checkboxes and things like that you don't have to worry about. But again, if you're evaluating product, make sure to look at those product accessibility templates to make sure that you're buying something that conforms with the requirements that we're going to have to adhere to. One of the big accessibility components beyond just having an accessible player with all the neat features for accessibility in it is closed captions. So Mediasite supports closed captions. And so I wanted to sort of jump out of the slides and show you how that works. If you're not familiar with closed captions, you should be, because you've seen them everywhere forever. But like was previously described, they are a transcript of the spoken content that appears on screen. And so what happens is you put a video into Mediasite, and Mediasite will, once it's processed, automatically transcribe that video. It's going to create an audio transcript, and then it's going to break those pieces of the transcript into timed chunks that will then appear on the screen when you enable the captions in the video player. So let's talk about getting into Mediasite. There's a few ways you can do it here. If you've not been in here before, this is my Canvas course we're looking at now. In the navigation column on the left, there is a My Mediasite label, or a navigation item. So you click on My Mediasite. It may ask you to authorize the application, and then it will load in. And so this is your My Mediasite area where you manage your Mediasite media. So this is where you upload stuff. This is where you edit the video. This is where you modify your closed captions. You can also get to it directly, which is what I'm going to do here, just for the sake of the recording, just to make things a little bit bigger. So now we're at the home of the My Mediasite portal. So let's say I have a video that I need to upload to Mediasite, and I want to make sure it's accessible and have the captions added. So I'm going to add a presentation. Again, that's from the left column under Add Presentation. Of the various ways I can create video in Mediasite, I want to actually upload an existing file that I already have. And again, Mediasite can create captions for anything that you've recorded in Mediasite or that you have uploaded into Mediasite manually, but we're going to just choose a video upload today. Here's my video clip. I'll just select that and open it. I want to give it a presentation title. I should call it About Kansas State University. We can give a presentation description if we want. This is, if it's useful metadata, we can make sure to include it. These are all things that screen readers will consume and then ultimately your users will consume when they read about the video. It's also searchable content, so it's important to make sure that this information is accurate. A discussion of facts about Kansas State. I can choose where to put it, my drafts, or if I have a specific course or channel that I've created, I can choose to put it in that folder. So I'm going to choose K-State 101 in this case, which is a channel I've created, and I'll select Create Presentation. Now we can see the video is uploading to the Mediasite server, and now it's going to start processing. If it's a longer video, you don't need to stick around while this happens. You can run off and do other things. This is a short 2-minute video, so it's already done doing its initial processing. At this point, Mediasite will submit this video for audio transcription. In other words, it's going to create that transcript, and then it's going to time those into individual captions that will ultimately appear on this video. Depending again on the length of the video, how complex the audio is, it may take several minutes, it may take several hours, depending on how busy the service is. But you should get an email once it's done saying, hey, the captions are ready, you need to go review them. Again, these are automated captions that it's creating. So it's not like a human is sitting there and reviewing them and making corrections. So it'll be up to you once these automated captions are complete to go in and edit them for accuracy. I often get the question, how accurate does it have to be? And the FCC has rules like, oh, it has to be 99% accurate or 98% accurate for live content. The internet doesn't have such a standard. The internet simply says it has to provide an effective communication. And moreover, how do you determine what is 99% accurate and whose scale are you using? Like the numbers really don't matter at the end of the day. You just need to make it the best it can be. So I am going to jump out of this for now, and you can see it's still waiting for captions, but I do have a presentation in here that already has captions on it. So I'm going to click on About K-State, which is the other presentation that I uploaded earlier. I'm looking at my presentation summary in the Mediasite portal, and the My Mediasite portal. And you can see this little captions label on it. That means that there are captions on this video. If you don't see that label, the captions aren't there yet. So I can go down here and I can click on the right-hand column. There are a bunch of options to either edit the video or make changes to it. I want to click on Edit Captions. This will open up the built-in caption editor in Mediasite. And it takes a little bit to get used to if you've never edited captions before, but you're essentially editing individual panels of text that appear at specific times. So you can see here on the left, I have a list of all these captions, and you can see the timestamps there. And then on the right, you can see a video preview that I can play back, and then also see where those captions appear in the linear timeline. And again, that's one of the benefits of automatic captioning is it sets this timing for you automatically. So you shouldn't have to do a lot of retiming of captions, but you may need to edit some of what it's transcribed. So what I like to do is to simply start out by reading the the text that's generated and make obvious changes. And of course, I've picked a video that is transcribed very well, and so I'm not finding a ton of changes to make. But for instance, I have some text here that says more than 20,000 students are enrolled. Well, it's added an extra space here between the 0 and the comma in 20,000, so I'm going to remove that. And again, I can go through and I can make edits like that throughout the video. Again, I want to make sure that it's, that it is what I said, so that it's not changing the context or the meaning in the captions. There's another one where it's 2.3. We'll just delete that out. So that's kind of what I like to do at first blush, is just kind of go through, read through the entire transcript and make changes that I know I need to make. Then what I like to do is I like to come back and I'll actually watch the video through.
Hello, and welcome to this presentation about Kansas State University.
So far, so good.
The university was founded in 1863, and currently there are campuses in Manhattan, Salina, and Olathe, Kansas.
Still so good.
More than 20,000 students are enrolled, taking more than 500,000.
So you can see that the captions as they play back are aligning with the caption position on the timeline. If I find that's not the case, I can simply pause the video and I can either make them longer or I can move them slightly. And again, that'll update the timestamps over here. Again, you shouldn't have to do too much of this. It's usually pretty good about this. Where you, I think, will spend most of your time is just making simple text corrections where, you know, it used the wrong they, their, or excuse me, use the wrong version of there, or there. Or say in this case, it said $461 million. Well, if I click on that, it's going to take me to that caption, or at least it was supposed to. There it is. So I'm usually my formatting here was 208.3 million, but it's using the dollar sign. And so I can come down here and I can just correct that. So million, add the dollar sign at the beginning. So you can make corrections like that. Again, this is totally up to you on how you want that to format, or how you want the captions to actually read. You just need to make sure that they're as accurate as you can make them. Again, don't worry about getting tied up in the word error rate is this, and it's not compliant unless I reach 99% accuracy. Just make sure it makes sense to the student. Once I'm done, all I have to do is hit save in the top right corner. And it says you have successfully updated the presentation's captions. So I'm going to go back to my video now about K-State by clicking the link here on the left. And let's just watch this in the new window. So now I can see it's playing back.
Manhattan
I'll unmute
campus.
it.
And is that what the student experience
Collectively,
looks like, Brandon?
Kansas
This
State
is also what the
University
student will
offers
see
more
when they
than
play it back in
250
Mediasite. So now I can see the
undergraduate
captions are
majors and
displayed. Pause this just for a moment so you can hear me. You can also see down here that there are options to turn the captions on or off. Right now they're on. If I didn't want to see the captions, I could turn them off. That's the benefit of closed captions versus open captions. With closed captions, you have the ability to control what you are seeing. So if the captions are actually distracting to you, you can turn them off. Open captions, you don't have that option. They're always there. They're just burned into the video. So that's one reason why I would say we prefer closed captions over open captions, because it gives the user the ability to control what they see on the screen.
In fiscal year
So again,
2023,
now turn them off.
it served a more than
We'll turn
$2.3
them back
billion
on.
economic impact. And in 2021, it represented.
I can then look at the caption settings. I can adjust, the text color, the opacity. These are all things that your student can then adjust to make sure that the captions fit their needs. I will point out one specific feature here that's nice in Mediasite is the font family. They can actually choose a dyslexic friendly font if they have challenges with reading text that is not adapted to a dyslexic viewpoint. Just to show you what that looks like. I have
research investment.
confused my player. Let me restart that.
Investment. $461 million was raised in 2023.
Sorry, that's why I actually have to select the auto-generated captions, not just the captions offsetting.
Students on the Kansas State University Manhattan campus.
So this is the normal text view.
Back the administration building on the Manhattan campus.
Then I can go to
collectively
the caption settings. Let's try that open dyslexic setting again. You can see it changes the font view considerably to be more dyslexic friendly. Again, if I wanted a different background color, to change it here. Again, these are all things that are stored in the player for that particular viewer.
Kansas State University offers more than 200.
One other thing about captions is that is a form of metadata. It makes it searchable. So if I wanted to go to the search tool by going to the lower right, selecting the more button and then search, I can now search for using captions. So if I wanted to search for science, I think I use the word science in here somewhere. All right, sciences. There we go. So I can jump to specific points in the video where that phrase or that term was used. So this is definitely beneficial for students that are looking specifically for content about a particular topic. And then they can jump right to that. Again, these are all ways that make your content more accessible. So that is essentially captions in Mediasite. Again, anything you upload or record in Mediasite will automatically have captions applied, but then you'll need to go back and edit those captions for accuracy to make sure that you are actually making your content more accessible and not confusing the user with for caption transcription. How are we doing on time? Yeah, I think I'm going to move forward and then we can double back to captions if people have questions here. The other thing that people may not have heard about is audio description. So whereas captions really captions are intended to serve the deaf and hard of hearing community, audio description is intended to serve the blind and low vision communities. So if you have a video that has dialogue in it and people are talking, but they are pointing at something or they are gesturing or opening a door, and you have, and through the audio, you don't actually hear that. You need some way to know that that action has happened so that, if that's important to the context of the video. So that's where audio description comes in. So like you have a track of text that comes over as captions on top of the video, audio description overlays in an audio track on top of the video that will add descriptive audio in the places of the video where it fits. So I'm sorry I don't have a great example queued up for you here today of a video with audio description on it, at least not one that we could record into this presentation. But if you go to your browser and search for audio description examples, there are a lot of great examples of audio description out there. There's a particular Subaru commercial from 2018 that comes to mind that will probably come up in your search results. And again, it's, if it's a lecture where an instructor is teaching and, they'll say, and at this point in the bell curve, and then the audio description track may chime in and there may be a voice that says, instructor points to the top of the bell curve. That's one way that the audio description can help the users who may not be able to visually see what the instructor is pointing at. I'm not really going to go into too much detail about how to create audio descriptions because it is still it's not quite as matured as the captioning in Mediasite. There are third-party companies that can create audio descriptions. However, I will tell you it is insanely expensive. It is anywhere between $4 to $13 per minute of video. So if you're talking like a 50-minute lecture, that could run you anywhere between $300 and $800 just for that one video. So what I will propose instead of creating audio descriptions for all your videos is to create your videos in such a way that audio description is not necessary. So if you are pointing to that bell curve and you're pointing to a particular point, don't just say, and if you look here at this point on the bell curve, no, you need to say, and if you look at the peak of this bell curve, there are ways to describe what you're seeing on the screen so that you don't necessitate having to come back and then add an audio description track. In Mediasite, for audio description, the process of once you have that audio description track is actually very similar to adding captions. You simply go to the videos details and you edit the details. And then on the delivery tab, here's where our audio transcriptions are. That's for the captions. And you can see Mediasite automatic captions are being applied here. But then you could also then add an MP3 file or some sort of an audio file for audio descriptions. And again, that lays over the top of the video. And just like you would see in the player, when you're playing back,
more than
where you see the
250
CC icon
undergraduate
for
majors and options. In fiscal
where you see the CC icon for closed captions, there would be an AD option for audio description that you could toggle on and off. But again, if you can avoid creating audio description by simply describing what the user is seeing on their screen, it's a lot more helpful. Some other accessibility tips we have in here. Clean audio means a clean transcript. If you were having trouble with the audio transcription service getting it wrong, the words are not what you actually said. That usually is because of either a very thick accent, which is a known issue in all of audio transcription, but more likely is the result of poor audio quality. So echoey rooms or not using a microphone that's close to your face like this headset. If you can get the microphone closer to your spoken voice and improve the clarity of your voice, it will result in a more accurate transcript, which in turn results in more accurate communication. Not just for transcribing the video, but also for those who are listening to the video, right? It's a lot easier to hear somebody that has a microphone closer to them than just an overhead microphone in the room. That is something we struggle with in our captures that are in the classroom. Sometimes instructors, they're not passing around a microphone or anything like that, so they just decide to just leave the overhead microphones on all the time. And that's great if you have interactive discussion and you need that level of pickup across the entire room. But my advice is to turn off those overhead mics when you don't need them, because it will improve the clarity of the recorded audio. Other rules also apply, just like they do in printed content. So you want to use high contrast text and backgrounds. Don't use light gray over white, that kind of thing. You also want to reduce the clutter, and I mean that in several ways. Make sure your slides aren't too busy, because that's more information, visual information, that the user has to consume, and can lead to confusion or simply not catching the entire message because there was just too much information to pick up on the screen. Similar, reducing clutter in your backgrounds in your videos. If you've got a bunch of clutter in the background and the users are more focused on what's in your background than listening to your message, you've got a problem. Again, these are things that, yes, it's more intended for comprehension, but that's ultimately accessibility. Because if it's a noisy video, essentially it's less accessible. Don't do silly things like strobing, flashing lights. The accessibility guidelines, the WCAG 2.1 AA says no flashes, no more than 3 flashes per second. We don't need to be giving anybody seizures. Also, it's just distracting. And then again, I think I mentioned this earlier, quality metadata, making sure your captions are accurate. If you have descriptions in your video title or in your description field, make sure those are accurate so that when people read that, they are either on the screen or through a screen reader, they're actually consuming that clear message. All right, where am I at here? Oh yes, my final thought, and then I'll open it up for questions here because I know we're going to have a few. Just remember that accessibility is a spectrum. We will get questions of, is this content accessible or is it inaccessible? And it's not a binary choice. Is it less accessible or is it more accessible? So instead of asking is or isn't it, the question we should be asking is, are the decisions we're making about the actions we're taking on our content, is it making it more accessible or is it making it less accessible? And obviously we want to be making the decisions that make our content more accessible. So again, don't freak out. It's just video content that if you use some common sense and some basic guidelines, make sure it's captioned, make sure the captions are accurate, make sure you're describing what is on the screen and what they are seeing. it'll make the video accessible, and then at the very least, you'll have a defensible position if somebody says it isn't. But if somebody says it isn't accessible, try to figure out how to make it accessible for them. Again, one more plug for the Mediasite website. If you have any questions or if you want to get in touch, it's kstate.edu/Mediasite. And I guess I'll turn it over for questions and we can talk about specific things people want to ask.
There are questions in the chat.
There are questions in the chat. Cool.